Hi, both. Thanks for joining us today on our Business Gurus channel, where we will be discussing key business topics to help students grasp the most important elements of their course in preparation for their exams and future career. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission today, it's swift, but honestly, pretty crucial. We're drilling down into the financial bedrock of, well, any operating entity cash flow.
Exactly.
And we're not wading into super complicated accounting standards here. We're using the core source material you provided to really get a quick handle on the fundamentals.
That's the plan. We're basically translating these concepts, net cash flow, opening bank balance, closing bank balance, which can seem a bit static, into, a dynamic, interconnected system.
Right.
For too many businesses, I think, the difference between making it and, well, catastrophic failure isn't always about profit. It's often about understanding this monthly rotation, these three numbers.
Yeah, and we want to show you exactly how the result of 1 month really sets the stage, doesn't it? Either for smooth sailing or maybe a desperate scramble in the next month.
It really does.
We're aiming for insights that stick, not just definitions that you forget later. Okay, let's unpack this.
Mm.
Starting with the concept that's the real engine, I suppose, of daily financial health, net cash flow.
Right, net cash flow, or NCF. It sounds technical, maybe, but it's actually simplicity itself, though people do often misunderstand it because they confuse it with profit.
Oh, okay.
Fundamentally, NCF is just the difference between your actual cash outflow and your actual cash inflow over a specific period, usually a month.
So actual cash moving.
Exactly. It tracks physical money, movement in and out of your bank account.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that distinction you made between cash and profit, that feels huge. We hear stories all the time, don't we? Highly profitable companies that still somehow fail.
Yeah, you do.
And that's usually a cash flow problem, right? Not a profit problem. So what does calculating this NCF figure specifically tell us?
It tells us about your immediate liquidity, your ability to pay right now. If we look at that specific example provided in the source, a business has cash inflow of £6,000,
Okay.
but their cash outflow is £4,500. Simple subtraction. Their net cash flow is a positive £1,500.
Was 1,500 positive.
Yeah, that's clean, immediate liquidity, cash that can be used or, saved.
1,500 pounds sounds pretty good, but why is focusing on that NCF number so much more sort of immediately relevant than the final profit number for the month?
Because the NCF dictates whether you can pay your bills today,
Mm-hmm.
right now. Profit often relies on accrual accounting.
Right, the timing difference.
Exactly. You might book a sale, shows up as profit maybe when you send the invoice, but the actual cash, that might not hit your account for 60, maybe even 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
NCF ignores that future promise. It only cares about the cash actually landed in the bank account. So a positive NCF of £1,500 means that money is there. It's ready to cover the next payment that's due.
Got it. So the NCF is like the pure liquid score for that period. If it's positive, like the example you're adding to your reserves, your cash pile. Mm-hmm. But if it's negative, let's say the outflow is 7,000 instead of 4,500 pounds, then you'd have a net cash flow of negative 1,000 pounds.
All right.
And that negative figure means you've immediately drawn down the balance you started the month with. You've spent more cash than came in.
And that immediately links us to the financial timeline idea, which is really section 2 of our deep dive today.
Okay.
See, NCF doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It's an event happening between a starting point and an ending point. So we have to understand the opening and closing bank balances.
I like that idea of a timeline. It makes it feel less static. So let's establish the starting line, the opening bank balance, defined simply as the total cash the business holds right at the very beginning of the month.
Yep, the starting point.
It's the financial foundation you begin with, right?
Exactly. And the context for interpreting that opening balance is, well, it's crucial. The material gives us 2 very clear rules for figuring this out, and they relate entirely to time, to when you are in the business life cycle.
Okay, the first rule seems pretty straightforward. If you're a brand new operation just starting out,
Your opening bank balance is 0.
zero, just nothing there.
Nothing. You have no history, no reserves built up yet, which, as you can imagine, puts immense pressure on that very first month's NCF. We'll probably circle back to that.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, what's the second rule?
The second rule is the essential link for every ongoing business, the
Yeah.
continuous part. And it's simple. The current month's opening bank balance is just last month's closing bank balance.
Ah, okay. Here's where it gets really interesting. Because that link, that's like the mechanism of inertia in finance, isn't it?
That's a good way to put it.
Inertia. If you finish 1 month on a high note, a good closing balance, you start the next one with momentum. cash in the bank.
Right.
But if you finish one period underwater, negative closing balance, you start the next month already sort of drowning.
You're already behind.
It totally dictates your mood, I bet, and definitely your margin for error.
It absolutely creates a chain reaction,
Yeah.
month after month. And that chain reaction is summarized by the endpoint, the closing bank balance, which is just the total cash the business has at the end of the month.
To the period.
Mathematically, it's simple again. Opening balance plus whatever your net cash flow was for that month.
So the closing balance then, that's like the verdict, the judgment on your liquidity health for that month.
Pretty much, yeah.
What are the two clear outcomes mentioned? The ones that determine whether you sleep well or stay up worrying.
Yeah. The outcomes are simple, but they are absolute. A positive closing balance. That means you have achieved a cash surplus.
Surplus, good word.
You have more cash now than when you started the month. But a negative closing balance results in a cash deficit.
Deficit, bad word.
Very bad word. It means your outflows, your spending, exceeded not just your inflows for the month, but also whatever starting capital you had the opening balance.
So a cash deficit essentially means, what? You're overdrawn at the bank, you've had to take out a quick loan, or maybe you just couldn't pay a bill.
All of the above are possible, yes.
Yeah.
The consequences go way beyond just, inconvenience. A deficit immediately hits your credit standing. It reduces your power to negotiate good terms with suppliers later. It's a really fast track to financial vulnerability.
Vulnerability, yeah.
And the most important point of this whole sequence, this timeline, is that loop we talked about, that vulnerable deficit figure. That becomes the next month's opening bank balance.
Coach.
You don't just wipe the slate clean and start fresh on the first of the month. You start the next month already needing to generate enough positive NCF just to crawl back to zero, let alone build up any kind of surplus.
It's a continuous self-reinforcing cycle then, can be positive or negative.
Absolutely.
Okay, if we connect this to the bigger picture, truly mastering cash flow means understanding you're managing movement across time, like you said, not just balancing a ledger once a year or something.
Precisely. You're managing flow. Now, we can't really talk about controlling that net cash flow, the NCF, without discussing the actual ingredients.
Yeah.
The things that make up those inflows and outflows.
All right.
Which brings us to section 3. The key vocabulary listed in the source. We should really view these as the tactical levers, the things you can actually pull to influence the NCF outcome.
Okay, levers. I like that. We saw the list. Sales revenue, costs, then fixed costs, variable costs, profits, and losses. Now, for someone who understands the basics of these terms, why is reviewing this list necessary specifically in the context of cash flow timing?
Because these terms are the things you could potentially control or delay or maybe accelerate. Think about sales revenue. That's your main cash inflow lever, right?
Yeah, money coming in from customers.
If you increase sales, great, you increase potential inflow. But the crucial insight here, especially for cash flow, is often that timing mismatch between revenue and the costs associated with it.
That timing mismatch, I've heard it called the silent killer in some businesses.
It can be.
You might secure a huge sale, looks great on the books as sales revenue, but the customer pays on net 30 or worse, net 60 terms.
Right. Takes time for the cash to arrive.
Meanwhile, the costs you incurred to make that sale, maybe wages, raw materials, those often have to be paid right now, this month.
Exactly. And that immediate pressure comes from your costs, which, as the list notes, break down into fixed costs and variable costs.
Okay.
Fixed costs are the non-negotiables, pretty much. Rent, maybe salaries, basic utilities. They happen regardless of your sales activity that month.
Rents do, whether you sell anything or not.
Pretty much. Variable costs, on the other hand, they change based on your production or sales volume. More sales might mean more raw materials needed, more shipping costs.
Got it. And fixed costs, thinking back to that new business scenario, they seem particularly dangerous if you start with a town opening balance.
Very dangerous.
If your rent, a fixed cost, is £2,000 and it's due on day one, you are instantly at a negative £2,000 closing balance the moment that bill is paid, right? Even if you have fantastic sales revenue forecasted, but it just hasn't arrived as cash yet.
You've absolutely hit on the core challenge, and therefore the core strategy of cash flow management, especially early on. If a business can manage its variable cost, effectively maybe negotiate better payment terms with suppliers, or adjust how it manages inventory, it directly reduces its cash outflow.
Which boosts the net cash flow.
Directly boosts NCF. Now, the terms profits and losses, well, obviously key to overall financial health long term. They are often lagging indicators compared to the immediate urgent reality dictated by your NCF and your cost management this month.
So looking at those levers then, revenue, fixed costs, variable costs, effective cash flow management means constantly analyzing how can I get my sales revenue inflow faster?
Hmm.
And how can I maybe delay or minimize my cost outflow, particularly those variable ones I might have more control over?
That's the game.
It's like a daily or weekly optimization game, isn't it? Aimed squarely at keeping that NCF positive.
It requires tactical decisions day in, day out. For instance, maybe offering a small, say, 2% discount for customers who pay cash up front.
Yeah.
That might lower your headline profits slightly on that sale, but the boost to your immediate NCF could be what prevents a cash deficit that month. It could save you from much higher bank overdraft fees, or maybe stop you damaging trust with a key supplier you couldn't pay on time.
Makes sense. Trading a little profit margin for crucial liquidity now.
Sometimes that's exactly the right move for survival.
Okay, this has been a really critical focus shift, I think, moving us from just static accounting definitions to seeing it as dynamic financial management. Let's quickly summarize then.
Good idea.
We define net cash flow as the difference, the actual movement of liquid cash in and out.
The flow, yeah.
We establish the opening balance as that sometimes unforgiving starting position, determined either by zero for a new start or simply last month's result.
The legacy of last month.
And the closing balance is the result, the verdict, the surplus or the deficit that immediately dictates the viability or at least the starting health of the next period.
Couldn't put it better.
So what does this all mean? I guess it means interpreting cash flow is less about looking at static numbers on a page and much more about tracking movement and, crucially, time.
Absolutely. It means you, the listener, hopefully now have the tools to understand that cash flow is the true measure of a business's ability to survive today and have the funds to operate tomorrow. You really have to treat it as a continuous forecast, where every single decision about revenue timing, about cost payment, is geared toward ensuring that ideally a positive net cash flow rolls forward into the next month's opening balance.
It's not just a system, it feels more like a living financial ecosystem within the business.
That's a great way to think of it, a financial ecosystem.
Okay.
And that leads us to a final provocative thought for you to consider. Based directly on the definitions of the elements we've just covered. Think about this.
Okay, lay it on us.
If a brand new business starts its very first month with that high pound opening bank balance, zero cash,
Right. The toughest start.
and it immediately needs to pay a substantial amount of fixed cost, let's say rent, insurance, maybe some setup fees, before any sales revenue has actually arrived as cash. How large must the initial investment, or maybe a loan be? That initial cash inflow. How large does that inflow need to be just to ensure that the resulting net cash flow for month one is mathematically sufficient to prevent the closing bank balance from tipping into a negative deficit?
Wow, yeah. Think about the sheer weight of that zero starting point.
Mm-hmm.
That business is instantly in a fight for survival, isn't it? Needing immediate cash injection, immediate acceleration of any possible inflow, just to cover those non-negotiable fixed costs that hit right away.
The opening position forces an urgency on the net cash flow that established businesses, even those struggling, rarely face in quite the same stark way.
We'll leave you to chew on that fundamental reality of a financial launch, that initial cash need just to break even on day one, essentially.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Thanks to both of you for joining us today. You've been listening to the Business Gurus. Let's now hand it over to you. What further questions do you have based on what we've discussed so far? Leave a comment and we'll get back to you right away. If you haven't already, hit that follow for more business tips.